In a world where superpowers known as quirks were known all around the world, villains and criminals began to rise, but as they did, so did heroes. But this story of what society deems as a hero, this isn't the story of that. This story is about Izuku Midoriya, the boy that was failed by society, failed by the people around him. But that story started with smiles, but continued with hatred. One day, when Izuku Midoriya was 4 years old, he begged his mother to bring him to the quirk doctor. And when she did, to her and everyone around them, the news was not good. "Well, Miss Midoriya, he does have a quirk, but it's a odd one. It seems he has dark magic embedded within his quirk, giving him the ability to bring back and control the dead." In a room away from Midoriya, his mother looked on in shock at the doctor, and she was afraid to go tell her son what his quirk was. She walked out and began telling Izuku, "Hey, honey, the doctor would like to explain your quirk." The doctor does so, and even asks if he wants to be a hero, and Midoriya shakes his head yes in response. "Of course, I want to be a hero just like All Might." They leave the doctors, and the next day, Midoriya goes to school and tells his best friend Kachan of the news, which he finds the quirk cool at first until Midoriya used it. A green aura began to surround Izuku when pressured into trying to use his quirk, and a zombie-like creature covered in mist appeared. The kids began to scream that he's a monster and a villain, and began running away from him. Days later, when he arrives home, he sees a note that says from his mom that she needed to leave for a while and would be back when she could, and to eat whatever was in the fridge. But what Midoriya didn't know is that his mom began driven insane, seeing spirits flying around her home and entities cursing her as she laid in bed. Hours became days, days became weeks, and weeks became months. A year had passed, and even Izuku could not deny that his mother would never come back. Izuku would cry himself to sleep every night until he was 6 years old. And that's when he realized his quirk was cursed, and so was he. That he was a monster, and that nobody would love him. Midoriya would walk the streets every day, refusing to go back home to the place his mother abandoned him. He would walk the streets talking to the people who he was convinced weren't actually there, only ghosts and spirits, the only things that would actually speak to him. He began sending his ghosts into stores and such to steal things that would allow him to survive, and he would post up camp under a bridge at night with a tent he stole from the store. Back at his old home, nothing was happening. The school never even called. They thought that it was best if a monster like him never showed up again. Months began passing for Midoriya, and he was never approached. A 7-year-old out on the street seemed normal to these people, or at least that's what he thought. He was still numb to the idea that society was in a state where heroes made people block out what was currently happening around them. People would see Midoriya and tell themselves that a hero would certainly come by and help, but even heroes would come by and see him and not even bat an eye at the kid. They would walk by without a trace. This is when Midoriya truly began realizing that nobody cared about him, that nobody thought he even existed. His own mother wanted him dead and gone, so why should he live in the world anymore? He walked to the tallest building he could find and leaped off, but before he could hit the ground, he began floating and gently touched the ground. His own quirk wouldn't allow for him to die. He was like this leader for the dead. He looked up to see flashes of entire armies of dead soldiers, from Spartans to Aztecs kneeling before him. At the age of 9, Midoriya realized that death was a cop-out, that he would try his best to regain his humanity and maybe become a hero. Well, that thought was gone soon after the night. He slept back under the bridge. A drunk hero stumbled across his tent and kicked it, dragging him out, screaming at him, saying why would they fire him from the agency, and began beating Midoriya. Midoriya began to realize that being a hero would not be enough to save society, that he needed to do something far more drastic. A dark aura began surrounding the hero and eventually covered him whole, turning him into a minion for Midoriya. Changing his appearance into a more ghost-like creature with armor, the former hero kneeled before him. "How may I serve you, master?" "Roam Japan. Hunt down any heroes that do wrong or only care for themselves. And if you are defeated, come back to me, and I will give you more power." The man roams off in the distance, and Midoriya goes into the city as well. Midoriya is then approached by a man. "What do you need, spirit?" "Spirit? I'm no spirit, kid. My name is All for One, and I would like you to join me. Join me to change this disgusting society." "Why would I do that?" "Because I can give you power. I've been watching you for a while, and I know how your quirk works. Come with me and I can show you." Midoriya stands up and looks at All for One, telling him not to do anything stupid. They both walk away and arrive at a nearby hideout.
"Master, welcome back. Wait, who is this kid?"
"Shigaraki, this is Izuku Midoriya, the boy I told you about." Shigaraki looks at him in shock.
"Kid, is it true that your powers are what Master says they are?"
Midoriya stays silent and looks at All for One. "No questions for now, Shigaraki. We have some business to take care of." They walk into the other room, and Midoriya finds something they deem as a Nomu, a human who was once killed, and they're implanting him with various quirks, but can't seem to get it in complete control, or more or less actively moving. "Midoriya, do you mind?" Why not?" Midoriya's eyes glow green, and he reaches out his hand, and the Nomu stands up. Shigaraki looks on in shock, thinking that everything that was once said about this kid was true. "Is this the power you told me I could have, All for One?" "Yes, my child, it is." "Then you got a deal. I'll play nice for now." Over the years, news began talking about a ghost man who traveled Japan, taking down and killing heroes, and would spew the words over and over again while walking. "The dead walks among you, but the living are the tainted." For years, this ghost-like figure was never taken down, until Midoriya was about 15 years old, and he saw in the news Endeavor burned the being to a crisp. "Wow, you did better than I expected."
"Who are you talking to, Midoriya?"
Shigaraki then sees that being that was defeated by Endeavor. "I'm sorry I lost, Master. I promise." "No reason to be sorry." And Shigaraki, meet Japan's very own Oni. Or at least that's what they like to call him.
"He's one of yours?"
Midoriya cuts him off, saying, "Yes, he is one of my servants." "Don't worry, Oni. Just lay low for a while. Go do whatever you want. I will summon you when needed, and that is when I will grant you with more power." The figure bows and disappears from sight. A screen turns on, and All for One begins talking, telling them to get ready for their invasion of the USJ. They all nod, and Kurogiri approaches them, telling them that the other villains are ready for the invasion. Shigaraki approaches Midoriya, telling him to avoid fighting for now, and that the Nomu is their trump card, but he is also their secret weapon if all plans fail. Midoriya tells him he knows and to not worry about him. He tried to die a long time ago, and that death doesn't seem like an option for him, even if he wanted to die. Shigaraki nods and they all prepare. Midoriya sits on a roof on the USJ watching from above, seeing two familiar faces. Katsuki Bakugo. And who are you? You look familiar, but I don't remember anything about you. The villains begin to attack Eraserhead, who is seemingly winning a 50 versus 1 fight, and Midoriya jumps from the roof, landing next to Shigaraki and Kurogiri with his hood covering his face.
Welcome to the party, Spirit King.
Shigaraki, I told you that I don't like that name.
Yeah, whatever, kid. I'm gonna keep calling you that until you tell me a better one.
Midoriya just ignores him and watches as Eraserhead fights. Do you plan on killing that hero?
Why you ask?
Because he's part of the list Oni gave me for real heroes.
You make things so much harder for us, kid. But we won't kill him, only injure.
Midoriya nods and watches as Eraserhead defeats all the villains.
Kurogiri, bring out the Nomu.
A giant monster comes walking out of a portal, charging at Eraserhead, breaking both of his arms and throwing him to the side.
Too bad All Might's not here. Honestly, kid, I'm surprised he's not on your list.
Don't ask me. Oni did extensive research, so he must have found something about him. Flashback to Oni disguised as a human. All Might, do you think I can become a hero even if I'm quirkless? Quirkless? Come on, kid. You have no chance. Just give up on being a hero. Back to present.
I don't mind. Cause now I get to kill All Might without caring.
As Shigaraki says this, All Might comes busting through the door. No need to fear, because I am here. All Might goes charging at the Nomu and they begin to clash. The Nomu slowly begins to lose, but when Kurogiri tries to help, Bakugo catches his metal body.
Don't you move, or I'm gonna blow you into pieces.
As Bakugo says this, Midoriya walks up to him. But to him, he just looks like a hooded man. Bakugo looks up and his aura alone begins to make Bakugo shake. I should kill you here and now, but I won't in respect to the plan. But no, Bakugo Katsuki, you will not be a hero. Midoriya kicks Bakugo away and takes Kurogiri back. Thank you, Spirit King. Not you too, stop calling me that. Midoriya puts down Kurogiri and sees the Nomu about to be defeated. He puts down his hood and begins calling out to the Oni. He arrives and Midoriya smiles. Your power awaits, my spirit. Have fun. Midoriya smiles as the Oni takes over the Nomu's body, and a beast that once had no brain began fighting as if he was coherent of what he was doing. The Nomu began to turn the tide of the fight, injuring All Might and throwing him back into the class. Shigaraki begins to laugh and say how pitiful the symbol of peace is, and that he can no longer protect anyone. Midoriya walks forward and a dark aura coats over him. To you heroes in training, you are all simple-minded. None of you understand, thinking that there are only two sides to this coin. But that is where you are mistaken. The class stands in shock, looking at an unconscious All Might. I was once one of you, wanting to be a hero. Frankly, I'm very close to all of your ages. But my classmates refused, my family refused, my own mother abandoned me. I got strong on my own, but I am no villain. But I am no hero. To society, I'm nothing. More pro heroes begin to enter. An entire army forms behind Midoriya. Now, heroes, let's see how good you truly are. Shigaraki tells him that it's time to go, that All Might is humiliated and the students have the fear of God within them. Midoriya nods, but as he walks away he hears a voice, a girl's voice, that screams his full name, Izuku Midoriya. She begs him to stop, to come back and become a hero like they once wanted to be. Midoriya began remembering who this person was, but just shook his head and turned around. They all walk through a portal, and Midoriya waves his hand, sending his horde of minions toward the pro heroes. Midoriya smiles and looks toward the girl. If you truly know who I am, I'll be seeing you soon, to either congratulate you on being a real hero, or to send you to the other world for not being one. Midoriya walks through the portal, and the pros and the students are left to fight this horde of monsters while protecting an unconscious All Might. As Midoriya began leaving through the portal, and all his memories began to recount, back to the time where he first got his quirk, and he was at the park and he hurt his leg. Ow, my leg! Hey, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine, but everyone is just so scared of me. Well, you aren't scary to me. What's your name? I'm Izuku Midoriya. What's yours? Oh, you can just call me Eri. Back to the UA fight. Eri begins thinking about how could that be Izuku, the same one that she knew as a kid. How could he be the same kid she helped all those years ago? She begins to recount when she left schools, when they started being together less and less, until it felt like Izuku was gone, that he wasn't even there anymore. Bakugo made him like this, huh? The others made him like this. The students began to fight off the crowds of the undead, and eventually they were able to actually get reinforcements, and the undead were defeated. Eri headed back to the dorms, and her class began to talk about that kid, that he looked just like their age. Bakugo sat there in silence, and Eri walked in to hear most of them calling him crazy, and that being a villain was his choice in the first place. She walks in and slams the wall, saying that being deserted wasn't a choice, that being abandoned wasn't a choice, and being ridiculed by every student because his quirk wasn't a choice. They all look in shock at her, asking if she knows him. She nods, saying that he was the nicest and kindest person she has ever met before he started getting bullied and before she had to move. She looks toward Bakugo, and he stands up and he begins to walk out of the dorms. Everyone asks where he's going, and pissed, he just says that he needs to clear his head. Eri breaks down in tears, thinking that she wasn't there for him. Nobody was, and now he's out there with those people. Now back to Midoriya.
It's a job well done, kid.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna go lay down. Midoriya walks into his room thinking about everything that has happened. That he doesn't regret his actions he did because he knows that he was right. He just hates to see her with fake heroes. All for One then approaches his door and knocks. Midoriya then opens it. I hope you're not thinking about switching back to the other side, kid. The other side? Even you know it's not that simple. This hero and villain bullshit isn't so clear cut. All for One nods and leaves the room, seemingly expecting that answer from him. Midoriya then heads out, seemingly searching for something. A spirit. And then a spirit comes out of nowhere. Master, I found what you were looking for. Okay, bring me to them. Midoriya follows the spirit, coming to a house, hours away in a whole different part of Japan. Thank you. I will call you when I need you. Yes, master. Midoriya walks up to the door, and before he knocks, he sees an entire family, having fun, laughing, enjoying life. None of the things he was able to do as a child. He, for one, only had a mother, never had siblings, and never had really a father. But he even lost his mother immediately after he got his quirk, so seeing this didn't necessarily make him nostalgic. It just made him sad. He just remembers back to the times before he had his quirk though. But reality set in and he knocked. A man walked up to the door. Oh, hello, what do you need? I'm looking for someone by the name of Inko. Is she here? Yeah, let me go get her for you, kid. He calls for his wife, and when she comes to the door, she doesn't even recognize him. What's wrong, kid? Do you want to come in? Midoriya tells her that he would love to, and he comes up with a story of how he's just lost and that he needs somewhere to get away from the rain until he can at least go back home. Oh, honey, you can stay here as long as you want. His tone and his face change. Why didn't you? Huh? Do they know? Do they know that you abandoned your child? The husband and the other children look at her in shock, asking both of them if what is he talking about and if that's even true. There's no need to answer that. I'm living proof of it. My name is Izuku Midoriya, her son, and known as, well, the villain that brings back the dead. Inko begins to cry, asking to not kill her. Why would I do that? Then I have to deal with you for the rest of my life. King of the dead, remember? So, what are you going to do? Frankly, if I was a real villain, I'd kill your whole family. But I like them. Maybe don't fuck this one up. Because if you do, I'll be back for your life. Midoriya begins to head out and her husband calls out to him. Wait, kid. You can come back. We could be a family. Look, I understand the sentiment, but trust me, where I'm going or where I went, there is no coming back anymore. Midoriya enters a portal and is basically back at the League of Villains base. Welcome back, Midoriya. How was your trip? Good. Got some things off my chest. Midoriya walks to his room and just goes to sleep. The next day, Midoriya tells everyone that he'll be going to the UA Sports Festival in, well, a full disguise. They tell him not to do anything stupid and he tells them obviously not. After some time, he arrives with a hoodie and some casual clothing and enters the stadium. He watches as the fights go on and watches as his old friend Eri loses in the first round of the 1v1 battles. And Midoriya heads to the locker room without being seen. Hey, that was pretty impressive. Thanks, I appreciate that, but who are you? He pulls down his hood and her eyes grow wide and she runs and hugs him. Where have you been? Well, why are you here? Just to see you compete. I'm glad to see you are the same person I once knew. Yeah, but you're different. Why did all this happen? Midoriya explains to her everything that happened to him and why he is, well, the way he is. She begins to cry and tell him that she is sorry and that she is just as much as at fault for leaving him. It's not your fault. It's actually the farthest from it. But just realize that the old me won't be coming back. But I will be here if you need me. He begins to leave and multiple students from the class show up, seeing her crying, and he slides his phone number to her without being, well, seen. But they stop him. They question him, asking why she is crying, but he just says that they were reminiscing on the good old days. He walks away and leaves back to the exit, but is stopped.
Oh, leaving so soon? But the best fights are yet to come.
Oh, All Might, yeah, I need to rush home. All Might kneels down with a smile, but he lowers his voice when he talks.
I know who you are, kid.
Okay. What do you want to do about it?
Nothing. You know I'm in no position to do so, but you're just a kid.
Midoriya cuts him off.
I grew up fast, All Might.
That's what you have to do when you, well, live through hell. Midoriya walks off and exits the school, with All Might thinking to himself that this kid is just broken and misguided. He isn't a villain. But to Midoriya, he agrees. He isn't a villain. Just, he has the ideals of what society thinks a villain is. Midoriya arrives back at the base and is greeted by everyone. They explain that they will need help and search for someone. Who are you trying to find?
Well, we need to find Stain.
The hero killer. You know, he won't like our little group very much.
Of course, but we need to find him anyways.
Okay, I'll send some minions to find him then. Shigaraki agrees, and Midoriya sends them off. After about a week, his minions finally come back with his next target. Good work, you're free to go. Thank you, Master. Midoriya tells Shigaraki that he'll be going to get our friend Stain. He tells him, and Shigaraki tells him to be careful, that the hero killer is a worthy opponent. Midoriya then approaches an alleyway, and using various no moves, Shigaraki is able to basically stall various heroes. Midoriya watches as Stain is about to kill a boy and the pro hero native. He drops down and Stain stabs into the boy.
What do you want?
Just to talk, Stain.
Oh, the king of the undead. Interesting to see you here.
Yeah. I want you to join us, or I guess our boss does. Something like that.
Why would I do that, kid?
I mean, it was just an offer. It would make your job easier. I mean, I do the same thing you do.
Oh, so you were controlling the Oni.
Midoriya continues talking to Stain, telling him that they can eliminate any fake heroes and that he can help him make sure that it gets done. Stain looks at him and is about to agree, but Endeavor, the number 2 pro hero, is in the alleyway. He charges at them both, but Midoriya summons the Nomu that is being controlled by the Oni and begins to fight Endeavor. The fight becomes increasingly hard because of the addition of more and more pro heroes. The Oni then turns to Midoriya and begins to speak.
Master, you should escape while you can.
It's not my style. I have a better idea. Midoriya begins reviving the 2 that were killed by Stain, using them as puppets in a spirit form. And Ida, Ingenium's brother and the pro hero native, attack the other pros, helping in the fight, turning the tide of the battle. The pros realize that this is bad, but the undead are way stronger than when they were alive before. Midoriya continues fighting, but even he knows that this still isn't enough. His body begins to be covered in a black aura, and this black armor seemingly covers him, as if being made up of the dead around him. Stain stands next to him, ready to kill the heroes, but more importantly, Endeavor.
You promised me, kid, huh? That you would help me kill all these fake heroes. And frankly, Endeavor is good enough.
Midoriya hears this and tells Stain that he is glad to hear that, and he sends his hand through Stain's chest and looks toward the heroes. It's crazy how killing someone can instantly erase their impact. But unfortunately for you, the dead is kinda my specialty. So erasing the impact of something through killing is more like multiplying the impact by 10. Midoriya smiles and Stain begins to be covered in this misty white cloak and stands to his feet. The now controlled Stain charges at the pro heroes faster, stronger, and way more durable than even before. Now heroes, you all die and become part of my army. All the pro heroes helping Endeavor slowly but surely die off, and with every death, the stronger Midoriya got, until he had an army of pro heroes, his Nomu, and even the hero killer himself. Endeavor realizes this, that it's practically impossible to win, and he tries to retreat, but the Nomu stops him, punching a hole through Endeavor's chest. Midoriya walks up to Endeavor. You know, I didn't want it to be like this, but society did deem me as a villain. He adds the number 2 hero to his army, and he tells everyone to disappear until further notice, and they do so sinking into the ground. Midoriya leaves to the League of Villains base.
So kid, how did it go?
You tell me, Shigaraki. Midoriya calls forth all the souls that he captured and are now under his control. Shigaraki looks in shock to see various pro heroes, Stain, and even the number 2 hero in Japan, Endeavor. Shigaraki calls for All For One, and when he arrives to see all these people under the control of Midoriya, he smirks. You did well, kid. I couldn't be prouder. All For One tells Midoriya that they can extend their plan a lot sooner now, and it's now time to take over what is truly theirs. Midoriya nods, and the League begins to plan. And only a couple days later, Midoriya decides to go give UA a visit, knowing that all this would burn to the ground very soon. Midoriya visits, and an alarm begins to blare, and various pro heroes and even students come out on the alarm. Nezu approaches and asks what he wants. I just want to see what any of you have to say before I burn this society to the ground. All Might then steps forward.
With heroes still alive, we will prevail.
You disgust me, All Might. You may save people, but telling a kid that is quirkless to just give up? That is despicable. All Might looks on in shock and tries to deny it. I don't care if you deny it or acknowledge it. I know you said it, because I had one of my spirits ask you. The students begin asking if that's true, and All Might continues to deny. A voice is then heard from behind everyone. Midoriya, please, don't do this. You can still be a hero with me. Bakugo steps forward as well, apologizing for what he did in the past and begging him to come back to them. I'm sorry, Eri, but there is no going back. If you want to join me, I will embrace you with open arms, but I don't plan on being a hero anymore. So many heroes have had the chance to save me from this. But now I know what I truly am. Midoriya's aura begins to erupt in a black cloak, and they all are get ready to fight. I'll see you soon, heroes. Midoriya sinks into the ground and everyone is left in shock. But Eri stands with a straight face because of what Midoriya said. Nezu begins to tell everyone that they need to prepare for the worst and that an attack could happen at any time. They all agree and leave to get ready, including the students. Midoriya arrives back at the League of Villains base.
Where the hell were you, kid?
Talking to our, hero friends.
What? Are you crazy? Are you trying to screw up the plan?
Shigaraki approaches Midoriya with an intent to hurt him, or at least acting like he was, and the Oni appears in front of him. Watch your tone, Shigaraki. I'm here to help you all for one, but I have my own agenda as well. Shigaraki scoffs and goes to sit down. All for One then enters, telling them both that the plan is a full go for the next day. They both agree, and Midoriya heads out the door once again. He leaves and gets information from the Oni about something unsettling. He arrives at a house and knocks on the door. A man opens it and his eyes grow wide. How'd you know? How did you come so quickly? Where is she? She's gone. I don't know where she went, but please don't kill her. It doesn't need to. Midoriya cuts him off, saying that he warned her, that he wouldn't do a thing as long as she was loyal to her new family. Midoriya snaps, and Stain appears. Go find my mother, Stain. Stain races off, and Midoriya asks the man if he can come in. The man agrees, but still very fearful for his life. Are you going to kill us? No, actually, quite the opposite. Oni, come out. The spirit Nomu arises from the ground. Oni will protect you from the incoming attack, and if any villains during the attack try to loot your family home, you have nothing to worry about. And because I don't want another child to go through what I went through. The man tries to thank Midoriya, but he tells him that there is no need to thank him. That in a way, this is his own selfish act. Midoriya goes back to the base, and 1 hour later, Stain arrives, throwing Inko on the floor. Shigaraki walks into the room.
Hey kid, why is there a woman on the ground?
Oh, Shigaraki, this is my mother. Do you mind taking her to the doctor and telling him to do whatever he wants? Shigaraki smirks and nods his head, taking her away, and she screams Midoriya's name, begging him for forgiveness. Midoriya heads to his room and lays down. Well, tomorrow, society changes. Midoriya goes to sleep, and the next day, all for one, Shigaraki, Midoriya, and a ton of Nomus head out to the middle of Hosu City. All for One stands in front of a news helicopter. Listen, all of you, if you want to live, join us. Join the movement to change society for the better. If not, you will die with your heroes. As All for One finishes his sentence, All Might shows up with tons of heroes.
All for One, you will be defeated today.
All Might begins to fight All for One, and Shigaraki nods to Midoriya, and the dead begins to rise. Shigaraki drops down next to the undead, and they begin fighting the pro heroes. Midoriya enters the battle, seeing Eri and various other heroes he deems as true heroes. He walks through the crowd and approaches Eri, telling her this is her last chance, and she tells him that she will bring him back to the light. Eri begins to rewind Midoriya back to trying to get him back to when he was 4 years old, when he didn't hate everything. But when she began doing that, his body just poofed from existence. The real Midoriya was sitting on a rooftop, looking down, realizing that she was not taking his offer. Very well, I guess I'll have to kill them all. The real Midoriya walks to the crowd, and Eri and various others look in shock. Midoriya summons both Stain and Endeavor to fight, and they begin fighting the pro heroes. He floats above them, using his dark magic, and speaks. You all could be part of a great society. one that is controlled, one that is... Midoriya is cut off, and pro hero Mirko kicks him in the face, sending him flying. He comes out of the rubble, slightly hurt, but nowhere near dead. Impressive, the rabbit hero herself. You'll make a great puppet. She scoffs, and they begin to fight, and Mirko trash talks his lack of hand-to-hand combat skills, but Midoriya just smiles as a blade comes from the ground, slicing her. Cutting into her was Stain, and he uses his quirk to paralyze her. Sorry about that, Mirko. You really are an impressive hero, but unfortunately, your strength can be used for another purpose. Midoriya begins killing her using dark magic, but as he does this, a man phases through the ground and punches him away. She thanks Lemillion for the save, and he points to Midoriya, telling him to give up now. Lemillion, the successor of All Might himself. How do you know that? I have eyes everywhere, Lemillion. Anywhere you go, I know you're there. Any training you do, I know what you worked on. Lemillion looks at him in shock, thinking that this kid is a psychopath. I even know what you're thinking, Lemillion. I'm some sort of psycho, right? Someone who's rotten to the core. But have you ever thought that the reason why I'm like this is because of people like him? Midoriya points toward All Might. So unfortunately, because of his mistake, you all must die. Midoriya charges at him, but his punch phases through him. But right when Mirio unphases, a spirit punches him in the face as well. Midoriya begins beating Mirio senseless, being able to predict pretty much every time he phases and unphases out of, of the ground of anything. Don't worry, Lemillion. You'll have a great purpose. Midoriya kills Mirio, and Night-Eye and All Might scream. Don't be sad, All Might. You have something else to be worried about. All for One punches All Might and he goes flying. Night-Eye then begins to freak out while fighting. Damn it, this isn't supposed to end like this. This kid, he broke what was supposed to be set in stone. Mirio begins rising from the ground with One for All within him at 100%, without the strain of his normal human body, proceeding to annihilate most of the other heroes. Midoriya walks up to Shigaraki and continues the destruction of the heroes that are left, but All for One, with a last-ditch effort from All Might, is defeated with nothing left of All Might. All for One, now knocked out, more pro heroes enter trying to help the fight, but Midoriya and Shigaraki go to help protect All for One. Kid, get Master out of here. I'll kill the rest of them. No, I don't think so, Shigaraki. Midoriya then kills Shigaraki and then proceeds to kill an unconscious All for One. The two of them rise from the dead, and the heroes, including All Might, just look on in shock. Midoriya proceeds to kill everyone, except for All Might, Aizawa, Bakugo, and Eri. Midoriya walks up to Aizawa, and in a last-ditch effort, he tries to erase his quirk. Come on, Eraserhead. What I have is no quirk. Even you should know that by now. Eraserhead steps in front of his students ready to fight, but two spirits pull away Eri and Aizawa. I want to kill you first, Kachan. Midoriya walks up to him, and he explodes Midoriya's face, but nothing happens. Pain is irrelevant to me now. And honestly, I changed my mind. I don't want to kill you. I just figured something out better. Midoriya has Stain slice off both the Bakugo's arms, and he kicks him to the ground. Young Bakugo! Don't worry, All Might. Like I said earlier, you'll be next. Midoriya walks to him and hears the pleas of Eri telling him to stop. Midoriya just smirks, but then his aura began to become sporadic, and he screams in pain. Damn it, not now! The Oni, sensing this, comes to Midoriya. Master, it's time! Midoriya looks to him, but before he could transform himself into the Oni, Eri begins to use her quirk upon him. What nobody knew was that Midoriya, every time he would revive the dead, his life would tick by faster and faster. He had a backup plan for this whole time, but not even he could think that the degradation would happen this soon. Eri continues to revert Midoriya but is crying. She screams that she wants the old Midoriya back, but then the Oni, under his own judgment, kills Eri, stopping her and merging with Midoriya. Midoriya, now back to his normal self, walks over to Eri's body, picking her up. I won't revive you. You deserve to go to heaven and not be stuck in this hellhole. Midoriya has a spirit take her away, and he proceeds to kill Aizawa and All Might, leaving Bakugo there to bleed out. Now having an army made up of pro heroes in Japan and all major villains as well, he began his assault, taking over the entirety of Japan. Countries all around the world heard of this and even nuked Japan as a way of stopping him. But this just made everything worse. Every survivor, every person who was hiding, then got risen from the grave, making his army larger. Midoriya headed to the US, where he was met by pros and even a news helicopter. He looked at the helicopter and spoke. I'm Izuku Midoriya, the one who will make society whole again. Years later, the undead were scattered everywhere, and Midoriya began making the world exactly in his image. Heroes that protected and villains who had real goals. For him though, he sat back and watched, as the world he created was perfect.
I don't wanna waste what's left.